Hello and welcome to the No Nay Never podcast, brought to you in association with the TalkSport Fan Network. I'm your host, Natalie Bromley, and for this bumper halfway house between Christmas and New Year edition, we have got lots of our guests on here. We have got Analysis Shaw team members Charlotte and Tom. We've got our resident statistician Statman Dave, and we think we might have a little segment from our FPL expert Adam Dennett. Listeners, we are going to give you a bumper episode this week because we are looking back at that fantastic 3-0 victory at home to Birmingham City, and we are looking ahead at two fixtures over the New Year period. Friday the 30th at Stoke City, and of course a very quick turnaround before we are once again playing in 2023 at the start of a new calendar year, and that will be Swansea City as well. Okay, before we get there, let's have a look at our reaction. Tom, Charlotte, Birmingham City, a very, very, very wet and cold Turf Moor, but a rather wonderful night. Charlotte, you were there as always. The Rigby sisters were in full voice, I assume. Talk us through your immediate match reaction.
As with any result where you get 3 points, absolutely thrilled. And we love to score multiple goals now, don't we? And it was fantastic as well to see the defensive side of it take such a strong turn as well. We always focus on our players in attack at the moment. We've got some fantastic lads. We have some fantastic movement up through midfield, but there wasn't. I mean, I don't watch very much of when they're out there on the attack, but there wasn't much that my sister was saying where she actually felt nervous in that situation. We had more of a defensive way of playing the game as well, and I think what they had a shot on target or something throughout the whole game.
Not a single one.
Not a single one. So that shows a little bit of something there that must have had some kind of good defending. It was really good to see that. I think before the game there was a lot of talk. It reminded me a little bit of the Watford game last season as well, and I'd seen a few people say the same thing, just the weather wise. And it's so funny how those things can trigger your memory. But I thought, it's just made me think about it. And then someone else mentioned it, and that made me think about it even more. But I was very glad when it turned out nothing like that. And even though we were all soaked to the bone afterwards, it was a thrilling result at Turf Moor, and wouldn't want it to be any other way.
Exactly. I think we've all got numerous stories of rain drizzle to Turf Moor. I think we could literally do an entire season worth of memories of rain at Turf Moor. Tom, I'm going to stick with that defence actually, just because I'm going to get this little bit out of the way on the podcast, because generally speaking, last night was awesome. Everything was fantastic. It was much more attacking, much more pressing. When we did keep possession, there was more of a purpose to that possession. It wasn't like the Middlesbrough game when it was just side to side. We were genuinely using that possession to wear out Birmingham mentally and physically. However, took a bit of the gloss and the shine off the game for me was, whilst Birmingham didn't really threaten us in defence, there were a couple of moments where they did manage to get in good positions. And as Charlotte said, where Muric did punch one out rather than catching it, which put us under a bit of pressure. And I did feel like we were a little bit shaky at the back last night. Please, am I seeing monsters under the bed, or do you think there's something in that?
I think you summed it up really with the stat before. They had 2 shots, neither of which were on target. So, there's I think it's easy to say, when we were 1-0 up, controlling most of the game, it's easy to get a bit more maybe spooked than you would normally. I think probably because it was such an easy game, probably something where across the occasional cross in the box from Birmingham sort of maybe woke you out of the stew for and made you think, oh, something's happening here. But it was nothing really. The punch from Muric, I agree, was poor. We know that's a weakness in this game, but I thought in the second half actually, he improved. He come out, and everything he come out for, he actually claimed two-handed, caught it. It helped that Birmingham were just quite a limited side. They didn't have a lot of quality. Deeney up front was looking every.
I was very disappointed with him.
Yeah, I think he's what's the polite way of putting it?
Past
his prime, just slightly over, slightly out of his prime, maybe. Yeah. He didn't cause as many problems, and I think even when he won some medals, he didn't have much around him. And I thought it was good to see as well company. Just when there was starting to get maybe a little bit of pressure, they had a few long throws in the box. We don't always look 100% convincing at defending balls into the box. He took Matson off and put Taylor on, and I thought that sort of calmed it down. Taylor's obviously very experienced, better defender, and I think that's something that we've learned from earlier in the season when we were dropping all these points with late equalisers. Remember the Coventry game, he brought Roberts and just made it a bit more solid, and we saw the game out, and there was a bit of that as well. So, yeah, I think the only way you could say that we really had any jitters last night was if you were just trying to make the game a little bit more interesting, and it actually was.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's difficult at the moment because we are, any critique of the team's performance is critiquing them from absolute perfection to a ridiculously high bar, because just the standard of that team is this season is just outstanding. So it was just something that I was a little bit wary of in the early stages of the game. But like you say, maybe when it is that easy and it is that joyful to watch, and actually there's just no stress at all, you get yourself in a position where you're almost looking for something to look at, essentially, more than anything. You know, you want something interesting, you want a debating point from the game. So I suspect it's a little bit of that.
It's quite a boring podcast if we just came on and spoke about brilliant we are for half an hour for you. So yeah, it's probably nice to try and find some kind of bones of contention.
That's the one. You see, listeners, we do it for you. We just do it for you. We find these little points of discussion for you just to make it a little bit interesting. So we don't want you bored. We don't want you using, you know, your valuable lunch breaks and your commute time to listen to us just going on about how good they are. That said, that's probably what we are going to do. Charlotte, no more so than the one and only Anas Sarori, who celebrated a hero's welcome to Turf Moor with a goal, a very well-worked goal, on 52 seconds. Could we love that boy anymore? That is the question.
Oh, absolutely not. It was lovely to see him back, and it was absolutely lovely to see him cement that in very quick fashion as well. And I thought it did him a world of good to get back into there, to hear his name being chanted, his song that's forever stuck in all of our heads every single day.
Oh, I've given up.
Around Turf Moor.
Just lives
There's
there.
no point trying to stop it.
Nope.
Yeah, it's just there now, and it probably will be for the rest of my life. But it was just nice to see, and you could see, and as he came out, it was brilliant welcome for him. And then 52 seconds or something, like you said, something stupid just to open that with that scoring. And what a goal as well, not only just a great build up but a fantastic finish as well for him. And the celebration, he was more than happy to slot that in the back of the neck. I think it was a good celebration that was followed by Connor Roberts' very similar celebration straight afterwards with the knee slide. Well, not quite straight afterwards, but with the knee slide. It was a pretty good carbon copy as well. That seems to be a celebration of choice last night. But it was lovely to see him back, and I think he's such an asset to the team. And I did miss him, although the results might not have said so much. I did miss him. I just missed his kind of presence in the team. And yeah, I think after the goal, he didn't personally go quiet, but it went a bit quieter down that side. A lot of it went down towards Benson more than anything else when they were playing. But after that goal, but you could still tell he was in that game, and even if it was coming down to Benson, if you had a quick look over at Zahouri, he had himself in space, he had himself ready to get the ball, absolutely fantastic, ready for anything. And yeah, it was lovely to see him back on Turf Moor, and I'm sure many people feel the same.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was nice to see that it just kind of looked like he'd not been away. There was no hangover, there was no jet lag. It was like slotted straight back in. And that's probably a credit to the Moroccan side, who, even though they've had players who didn't feature at all until the third and fourth place playoff, he still managed to come back that sharp and that fit. So they obviously did a good job in training with the wider squad there in Morocco.
Yeah, for an effort. You've heard some other players that have come back to their teams. I won't name any names that have been called out for not keeping the fitness levels up, and it must be a little bit embarrassing.
Overweight was one, I believe, that we saw. Yeah,
overweight was the word I heard as well, and not fit enough to even train with the team, which I thought was quite harsh. I don't know whether Vincent Kompany would be that type of manager anyway. But it was nice to see that they must have been working hard, and that's a credit to him as well, because it must be so easy to get carried away in that kind of situation. And if you're not playing, to get carried away in the celebratory side of it as well, and getting involved with the team, and maybe just taking a step back from your fitness level. So it's an absolute credit to him as a young man to have that discipline as well. But it was great to see him. And like you said, he slotted in no problem. He loved being back with his teammates, you could tell. And I think he really quite enjoys being back on Turf Moor.
I love it as well. I love how much he loves being with us and how much he's taking to the fans. Tom, a goal in the opening seconds of the game, and a goal in the half, and a goal in the dying seconds of the half. If you are not one to be at your seat on time, or you like to leave early for a pint, last night was not the game for you. How much do you think that sort of was a summary of that first half performance? Because it did, after that first goal, it did go quite quiet. And apart from a couple of half chances, nothing really happened until, right on the halfway line. Do you think that was just gamesmanship from both sides, or do you think it was just, I don't know, I can't really figure it out what happened in that first half?
I think we spoke a lot before about how the first halves are quieter. The Middlesbrough game, some found it a bit boring, some didn't. But I think the difference in this one was Birmingham tried to do for the first sort of 10, 15 minutes what they tried to do to us at St Andrews, which was press us. Obviously, we broke the press in the first minute, went up that and then scored. And suddenly the whole complexion of the game's different because Birmingham didn't open them at all. And I think they thought for 10, 15 minutes, they thought, let's try and press them and get at them. And then they realised, look, if we do this, we're going to lose 5-6-0 because these are miles better than us. And they just retreated for the rest of the half. And I think we're content at 1-0 just to pass it around. We barely got out of third gear last night because we were just so superior. It was a game that we knew we were going to win as soon as that first goal went in, really. And as you say, the goals came at a good time. I think to score so early, as I say, really set the tone for the game. And to score just before half time, you knew they were not going to score 2 goals last night if we'd played till Christmas. So yeah, just good time to score. We controlled the game. We looked really comfortable. If it's one thing to be passing it around 0-0 and probing for the opening, but when we're in such total control of games, when we've got so much of the ball, if you're not giving up anything to Birmingham like we did last night, then it doesn't really matter, what kind of tempo you play at, because you're not going to get threatened. And if you 1-0 up, then you're going to win the game.
Yeah, that's true. I think the way I was kind of looking at it last night was we even when we scored the first goal, the opening goal, we still stuck to our obvious game plan until told otherwise at half time, which was just to keep possession and just to stop them having any chances at all. So we just carried on as if it was 0-0 really, which is what we always tend to do. But as I said at the opener of the show, just keeping that keeping that possession, but actually making them run for it. And you could see the energy levels of the Birmingham players drop. But I actually also think that they did the same thing. I think they then retreated into a game plan of, let's just keep this to 1-0, because if we can go in at half time at 1-0, we'll see what we can do in the second half, see if we can get a set piece or try and, capitalise on a mistake. And then that they were just dead when we scored the second. Where else do I want to go with this, Charlotte? I'm trying to think if what was it? Where was I going with that? My brain's gone.
Just while you're thinking, Natalie,
yes,
just
sorry, go on.
That as well with the energy levels. We've got a bumper preview show this week, and it's because the games are also close together. It's 3 in a week.
Yeah.
So that plays a part as well. I think, when at 2-0, when the game's already over, really, both teams know it. You're not going to see a full throttle second half because both teams are thinking, well, let's just save a bit of energy because we've got another big game coming up. So that probably played a part in it as well, I would have thought.
That's a good point, actually. And I suspect where I was probably heading with this is I was actually heading to Nathan Teller, which for the third goal, which is probably quite nice little segue there. Charlotte, I thought there were some very, very clever substitutions being made last night by Vincent Kompany. We've already talked about the Charlie Taylor one. That I thought was a fantastic tactical substitution. But I think he used the squad well. We all said before the game started that bench was ridiculous. Like that bench was better than some of the starting 11 of some of the championship sides. But Kompany just, yes, he's got these players at his disposal, but my goodness, how much did he use them last night?
Yeah, we're a bit spoilt for choice at the moment now, aren't we? It's not felt that way for a while to have a fantastic starting 11 and then having the players that can come off the bench and that could just well have started. And I was saying to Georgia on my way home last night, I said, look, he did make very good substitutions. He had a very good game plan, looking forward at the games as well that we've got to come. And the fact that some of those lads were on the bench, but they came on for 10, 15 minutes, keep the fitness levels up, whatever, keep them raring for the game, and they'll be the starters next game, I assume, or playing more of a part. And I think, like you say, he's played a good game there. It was at 2-0, like you said, we think it's settling down a bit. Both teams know what's going to happen, really, and then he can start to change his players about, give them a bit of rest. You saw when he subs off the likes of Jay and things, you could see it tired out a little bit there, or more of a long hog of a game than what it has been recently. And you could see that was a good substitution as well. But no, I thought bringing Teller on is just a bundle of energy, isn't he? Whenever you get him on, I absolutely love the fella. He's got the smile to die for, and he is a bundle of energy. And to be able to bring him on, and obviously when he scored the goal, that's just the icing on the cake. But you've then got that for you've then got that for the next game. You know, you've got him on the bench if need be to come on sooner, or even to start him and give the other lads a rest, because it's so fantastic to have those options now. And the fact that he's built a squad like that is absolutely sublime for him, and he really knows what he's doing with his substitutions. Towards the beginning of the season, some of them, you know, you think he could have brought people on at different times, he could have had different people starting, but he seems to have really got into the flow of the squad and things now, and seems to be working really in our favour.
Yeah, definitely. Man of the match for you, Tom, before we move on?
I think the outstanding candidates were on the right-hand side, Benson and Roberts. I think identified the fact that the left-back was a little bit dodgy and that he didn't have a lot of support either. I think with a goal and an assist from right-back, you've got to give it to Roberts. Thought his play on the right-hand side, especially in the first half, set up one goal, could have set up Benson for another, and then the finish for the goal on his weaker foot, first-time goal. Coming from your fullback, that it's just outstanding, really good. So yeah, I agree with the crowd. It's Roberts for me.
Excellent. Charlotte, can I make a claim for Josh Cullen? Are you having any of that? I thought he was outstanding last night.
Yeah, I think Josh Cullen's one of those that we kind of overlook and forget about sometimes.
Flies under the radar, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does fly under the radar, and it's because he's got those big personalities and those big players around him that we all sing praises for all the time. I can absolutely see a shout for Josh Cullen, and I could really, with most games, see a shout for Josh Cullen. I think he's, like you say, he flies under the radar, but he's a massive part of what we're doing at the moment. But I've got to agree with Tom there with Connor Roberts. I thought, you know, he's got so much stick over the course of the season, and he's absolutely come out flying last night, and he took the brunt of quite a few cynical fouls last night as well.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Up after him, and he took the major brunt of him. So they must have seen him as a threat as well, and he did, and he got back up, and you know, he might have said a couple of words or whatever, but he got back up and then assists, he scores, and he just had a fantastic game start to finish. So it's got to be Connor Roberts for me as well.
There you go, Connor Roberts. It is. He takes man of the match. Well, let's move on.